It was a quiet night. The sky was dark and the moonlight touched the ground like silver paint. The man sat inside his small house drinking tea when he heard something unusual. It was not the sound of the wind or the cry of an animal. It was different. Soft steps, quick movements like someone trying not to be heard. He stood up, his heart beating faster. Slowly he walked to the window and looked outside. The garden that he loved so much lay in front of him. Rows of fresh vegetables grew there, tomatoes, carrots, beans. But tonight something was moving between the plants. At first he thought it was a thief. He grabbed a small flashlight and stepped outside. The air was cool, and the silence of the night made every sound louder. He walked carefully, his shoes crunching on the soil. Then he froze. There, bent low among the vegetables, was a figure. It was not a normal human shape. Thin, fragile, and glowing faintly in the dark. Long arms, pale skin that almost shined, and eyes that glimmered like small stars. It was a woman, but not from this world. The man's breath caught in his throat. His first thought was to run back inside. His second thought was to shout at her, but curiosity held him in place. The woman's hands were shaking as she picked vegetables, putting them in a small cloth bag. Suddenly, she dropped the bag as if her strength was gone. She looked around, frightened, and then saw him. For a moment, time stopped. Her glowing eyes met his. She did not attack. She did not threaten him. Instead, she fell to her knees in the dirt. Her voice came out soft, broken, full of pain. "Please, my children are hungry." The man's hand holding the flashlight trembled. This was no ordinary thief. This was something else, something strange and desperate. He stepped closer, carefully, as if walking toward a wild animal. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice low but firm. The woman looked up. Her face was thin, her cheeks hollow as if she had not eaten for days. Her clothes were torn, made of strange silver fabric. She looked weak, but her eyes shone with a mother's strength. "I am not from here," she whispered. "I did not want to steal, but I had no choice." The man stared at her, not sure if his mind was playing tricks. An alien, here in his garden, stealing food? It sounded impossible, yet she was real, right in front of him. His thoughts raced. If she was from another world, what was she doing here? Where were her people? Why was she alone? The woman lowered her head, almost touching the ground. "Please," she begged again, "do not send me away. My children, they will not survive the night without food." The man's heart pulled in two directions. One side told him to be careful, that she might be dangerous. The other side whispered that she was just a mother trying to keep her children alive. He crouched down slowly, still keeping some distance. "Children?" he asked. "Where are they?" The woman's eyes filled with tears that shimmered in the moonlight. "Hidden," she said. "Far from here. I cannot bring them out. It is not safe. But they wait for me. They wait for food." The man swallowed hard. The silence of the night grew heavier, wrapping around them. He did not know what to say, what to believe. Suddenly, a sound broke the moment, a low metallic hum from deep within the forest. The alien woman's head snapped up, her eyes wide with fear. "No," she whispered, almost to herself. Her body trembled, her hands clutching the empty bag. "They are coming." The man frowned. "Who?" The woman's lips shook as she spoke. "Hunters. If they find me, it will not only be me who suffers. Your world will not be safe either." A cold chill ran down his spine. He looked toward Eeyore, the trees. The sound was growing louder, steady, unnatural. The woman crawled closer, clutching his leg with weak hands. "Help me, please," she begged. "Hide me. If they see me, everything will end." The man stared at her, torn between fear and compassion. His mind screamed at him to run, to lock his doors and pretend none of this was real. But his heart could not ignore her trembling voice. The hum grew louder. In the distance, red lights flickered between the trees, moving closer like eyes searching in the dark. The man took a deep breath, his body frozen in place. He knew nothing would ever be the same again. And in that moment, he had to choose. Trust the strange woman from the stars, or let the hunters find her. The garden was silent again, but the man's heart was not. It beat fast inside his chest as the strange woman clung to his leg, her glowing eyes filled with fear. The red lights in the forest flickered like angry fireflies, moving closer step by step. The low metallic hum carried through the night air, cold and sharp like a machine breathing. The man wanted to run, but something in the woman's voice held him still. She was weak, her body shaking as if she might collapse at any moment. Her words still echoed in his ears. "My children are hungry. Hide me, please." He bent down, speaking quickly, but quietly. "What are those lights? Who is coming?" The woman raised her head, her face pale and tired. "Hunters," she whispered. "They are not human. They follow me across the stars. They will kill me. And if they see you helping me, they will kill you too." The man's skin turned cold. His farm, his quiet life, his garden, none of it felt safe anymore. This was not a simple thief or a beggar. This was something bigger, something dangerous. Still, when he looked at her trembling hands and hollow cheeks, he could not walk away. "Why are they hunting you?" he asked. The woman's voice broke as she spoke. "Because I escaped. Because I carry something they want. If they catch me, they will take it. If they take it, your world will burn." The man stared at her, shocked by her words. He wanted answers, but there was no time. The red lights were closer now, shining through the trees. The metallic sound was no longer distant. It was at the edge of the forest. He grabbed the woman's arm. "Come with me." She stumbled as he pulled her toward the barn. Her legs were weak, her steps uneven, as though each movement cost her all the strength she had left. They slipped, inside the barn, the old wooden door closing softly behind them. The barn was dark, filled with the smell of hay and soil. The man's flashlight flickered over the walls, then he turned it off. Any light might give them away. They crouched together, in the shadows listening. Outside the hum grew louder, heavy footsteps pressed against the earth, slow and measured. Something was searching, something not human. The woman leaned close to him, her voice trembling. "Please believe me. I do not want to hurt you. I only want to save my children." The man whispered back, his throat dry. "Where are your children?" Her eyes glistened in the faint moonlight that slipped through the cracks in the barn. "Far from here, hidden in the forest. They are small. They are weak. They wait for me, but I cannot reach them if the hunters find me." He studied her face. She looked tired, broken, but her eyes burned with the same fire any mother would have for her children. Something about that look reached deep into him. He wanted to believe her, but doubt still gnawed at his mind. What if she was lying? What if this was a trap? Outside, the hunters spoke in low metallic tones, words that sounded like static and grinding steel. Their shadows stretched long under the moonlight, moving slowly around the barn. The woman grabbed his hand. Her skin was colder than human skin, but her grip was strong. "Please," she whispered, "if they take me, they will find my children. And if they find them, they will find you too." The man pressed his back against the wall, trying to stay calm. "What do they want from you?" Her eyes filled with sorrow. She lowered her voice to almost nothing. "I carry something powerful. It is small, but it can save my people, or destroy yours. That is why they hunt me." The man's chest tightened. He wanted to ask more, but a sudden noise froze them both. The barn door creaked just a little, as if touched by a heavy hand. The woman gasped softly, covering her mouth with both hands. The man held his breath, every muscle tense. A red light swept across the barn's floor, sliding over the hay, over the old wooden planks, closer and closer to where they hid. The footsteps stopped. The hum grew deeper, vibrating through the walls. The man felt sweat on his forehead. His garden, his land. Suddenly it was no longer his. It was part of a battle he did not understand. The woman leaned so close that he felt her breath against his ear. "If they find me, run," she whispered. "Do not look back. Do not try to save me." But he knew he couldn't do that. He couldn't just leave her, not after what she said. The red light paused only inches from his boot. Then it pulled away, sweeping toward the other side of the barn. The man exhaled quietly, his heart hammering. The woman shut her eyes, whispering words he didn't understand. Prayers, maybe, from a world far away. The footsteps moved again, slower this time, as though the hunters were unsure. For now they had not found them, but the danger was far from gone. The man realized one thing: his life had changed forever. He was no longer just a farmer. He was part of a story much bigger, darker, and more dangerous than he could imagine, and the night was only beginning. The barn was still, but the man could feel the air trembling. The strange red lights outside crawled across the ground like searching eyes. Every sound seemed louder in the silence. The creak of the wood, the whisper of the hay, the quick, shaky breaths of the alien woman beside him. He pressed his back against the wall, forcing himself not to move. The woman's hands gripped her cloth bag, though it was empty now. The stolen vegetables spilled back in the garden. Her wide eyes glowed faintly in the darkness, fixed on the barn door. The heavy footsteps outside stopped. The metallic hum fell, quiet. For a moment it was as if the world held its breath, then a voice, low, sharp, mechanical. The words were not human. They hissed and clicked, full of static. The sound made the man's skin crawl. The woman shivered. "They are speaking to each other," she whispered so softly he could barely hear. "They know I am close." The man's throat was dry. He wanted to ask her why these hunters cared so much, but his voice would give them away. He stayed silent, every muscle stiff. The barn door creaked again, only a little this time. A shadow slid across the gap, tall, angular, wrong. Not human. A glowing red beam swept across the barn floor once more, pausing on the old wheelbarrow. The broken tools, the piles of hay. The woman squeezed the man's arm. Her face was pale, her lips trembling. "If they open the door, we are finished." The red light hovered. Then it vanished. The footsteps moved away, circling around the barn. The man exhaled slowly, trying to calm the pounding in his chest. He leaned closer to her, speaking in a whisper. "You said they are hunters. What do they want from you? From this thing you carry?" The woman looked down, her fingers clutching the cloth bag as if something important were hidden inside. Her voice was tired, but her words were clear. "They want the crystal," she said. "It is small, but it carries power. My people built it long ago. It can heal the sick. It can give food where none grows. It can even change the air of a dying world. But in their hands—" She shook her head. "In their hands, it is only a weapon." The man stared at her, his mind spinning. A crystal that could save lives and or destroy them. And she had it here, in his barn. "Why did you come to my garden?" he asked. Her eyes filled with sorrow. "Because I saw you. You were kind to the earth, you cared for the plants, for the soil. I thought, maybe you would understand." The man wanted to answer, but before he could, the barn filled with a sudden glow. A crack of red light sliced through a hole in the wall. The hunters were scanning again, their strange machines humming louder. The woman gasped, covering her mouth. With her hand, the man grabbed her wrist. "Stay still," he whispered. The footsteps returned, heavier this time, pressing against the earth with force. The hunters were not wandering anymore. They were searching with purpose. The man peeked through a small gap in the barn wall. What he saw made his blood run cold. Two tall figures moved outside. Their bodies were covered in dark armor, plates that reflected the red glow. Their heads were not like human heads. They were sharp, insect-like, with long ridges where eyes should be. In their hands they carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. The man pulled back. His breath caught in his throat. These were no simple soldiers. They were something worse, something built to kill. The woman leaned closer, her voice trembling. If they find me, they will take the crystal. They will use it to conquer, and your world will be next. The man's heart pounded. He did not want to believe it, but the fear in her voice was real. She was not just fighting for herself. She was fighting for something greater. The footsteps grew louder again. The barn door rattled under a heavy push. Dust fell from the beams above. The woman's eyes widened. She grabbed his hand and whispered, almost begging, "Please, hide me. Choose now. If you leave me, I will die. If you help me, you will become part of this war." The man swallowed hard. His mind screamed at him to walk away, to protect his own life. But his heart, remembered her first words. "My children are hungry." The barn door shook again, harder this time. A low growl of static filled the air, the hunters speaking in their strange tongue. The man looked at her. He saw her weakness, her fear, but also her strength. The strength of a mother willing to risk everything. He made his choice. He pointed to a trapdoor in the floor, hidden under a pile of hay. It led to a small root cellar he had dug years ago. "Down there," he whispered. The woman's eyes widened with relief. She crawled quickly, pulling the hay aside and slipping into the darkness below. The man pulled the cover back just as the barn door slammed open. The hunters stepped inside, tall, armored. Their red lights cut through the shadows, sweeping across the walls. The man pressed himself against the far wall, trying to stay hidden, his heart racing. The hunters' machines clicked and hummed, filling the barn with an unnatural rhythm. The woman was hidden beneath him, silent, waiting. The man clenched his fists, praying they would not look too closely. But one of the hunters turned its head, slowly, its red beam crawling across the barn floor, and then it stopped. The barn door burst open with a thunderous crash. The hinges screamed as the heavy wood slammed against the wall. Dust and hay rose into the air, floating in the red glow that now filled the room. Two hunters stepped inside. Their armor clanked with each movement, dark plates shining under the red lights from their helmets. Their heads turned slowly, insect-like, with sharp ridges where eyes should have been. The air around them vibrated with a low hum, the sound of their weapons charging. The man pressed himself into the farthest shadow, holding his breath. His hands were slick with sweat, his heart beating so hard he feared it might give him away. Beneath, the floor hidden under the trapdoor, the alien woman waited in silence. The man prayed she would not make a sound. The hunters spread out, scanning the barn. Red beams of light swept over the hay, the broken tools, the old wheelbarrow. One beam slid across the man's boots, paused for a heartbeat, then moved on. This man did not move. Not a single muscle. The hunters spoke to each other in their strange metallic tongue. The words were full of static and sharp clicks like broken radios trying to form speech. One of them lifted a device from its waist. It pulsed with blue light, casting waves across the barn as though sniffing for life. The man's stomach twisted. The device passed close to the trapdoor. He held his breath until his chest burned, terrified it would sense her below. The device flickered, then went still. The hunter tilted its head, confused. The woman below pressed her hand to the crystal hidden in her bag. It glowed faintly, just enough to interfere with the scanner, hiding her presence. The man did not know what she was doing, but it worked. The hunters shifted, restless, still searching. One of them stomped closer, its heavy boots shaking the wooden boards. The man's eyes widened as the red beam from its helmet crept across the wall and landed on him. He froze. His breath caught. The hunter tilted its head, locking on his shadow. The man's body screamed at him to run, but he forced himself to stay calm. He slowly raised his hands and stepped out into the open. The hunters straightened, their weapons glowing brighter. The man's voice shook, but he managed to speak. "I am just a farmer," he said, hoping they understood tone if not words. He pointed toward the garden outside. "This is my land. There is nothing here for you." The hunters did not answer. They moved closer, their armor scraping. One raised its weapon, a long staff with red coils of energy humming at its tip. The man swallowed hard. His heart thundered in his chest. If they fired, he would be dead before he hit the ground. From below, he felt a faint vibration, a soft hum. The alien woman was clutching the crystal, its light building, hiding them both from the hunters, scanners. But she could not keep it up forever. The hunter lowered its staff, pressing the glowing end into the dirt at his feet. Sparks jumped, burning holes in the wood. The smell of smoke filled the barn. The man forced himself to stand still, though every nerve in his body screamed to run. The other hunter circled, scanning every corner. Its red beam swept dangerously close to the trapdoor. The woman below squeezed, her eyes shut, pressing her lips together to stop herself from crying out. Her children's faces burned in her mind. She could not be caught. The hunters stopped, their beams crossing the barn. They spoke again in static voices. One word repeated, again and again, sharp and angry. The man realized something. They were not sure. They suspected, but they had not found her yet. He saw a chance. His eyes darted to the tools hanging on the wall. A rusty pitchfork, an old hammer, a heavy iron hook. His hands itched to grab one, to fight, but reason stopped him. These were armored, creatures with weapons far beyond his. Still, he had to distract them. The hunter closest to the trapdoor bent down, tapping the wood with its staff. The board shook. The woman's heart pounded in the darkness below. The man acted. He grabbed a rock from the ground and hurled it across the barn. It struck the far wall with a loud crack. The hunters spun instantly, their red beams slashing through the air. The man ducked back into the shadows, his chest heaving. For a moment, they were distracted, their focus pulled away from the trapdoor. The woman whispered from below, though no one could hear. "Thank you." The hunters stomped toward the sound of the rock, smashing through piles of hay and broken wood. Their weapons glowed hotter, humming louder, ready to fire. The woman's eyes softened. Despite her weakness, a faint smile touched her lips. "That is why I chose you." The man said nothing. He only tightened his grip on the glowing stone. Somewhere behind them, the hunters' voices rose again, static and cold. The forest shook with their anger. The chase was not over. It had only just begun. The forest was alive with fire and shadows. Behind them, the hunters tore through the trees, their red beams sweeping like knives through the dark. Each step of their armored boots shook the earth. The night was no longer quiet. It was filled with the sound of pursuit, static voices, and the hum of weapons. The man gripped the crystal tightly, its glow pulsing against his palm. Each beat felt like a second heart inside him, strong and urgent. The alien woman leaned against his arm, her steps weak, her breaths sharp and uneven. But her eyes still burned with that mother's fire. They stumbled into a clearing. Moonlight poured down, silver and calm in sharp contrast to the chaos around them. For a brief moment, the man wished he could freeze time, to hold on to the peace of that light. But the hunters were coming. The choice he had been avoiding was no longer in the distance. It was here. The woman stopped, clutching her chest. "We cannot run anymore," she whispered. Her voice shook, but her words were steady. "They will not stop. They never stop." The man turned to her, desperate. "Then what do we do?" Her eyes fell on the crystal in his hand. "You must decide. Give it to them and they will leave for a time, but then they will use it to destroy. Keep it, and they will hunt you until you can find a way to end them." The man stared at the glowing stone. It hummed in his hand, warm and alive, as if it was listening. The woman's voice grew softer. "My children wait for me. If I die, they will not survive. If you give me the crystal, I can save them. But if the hunters catch me with it, then all is lost. The man's throat tightened. The choice was heavy, crushing. Save her children now or protect the world later. The sound of trees crashing broke his thoughts. The hunters burst into the clearing, their red beams sweeping, weapons glowing hotter than ever. The woman's hands shook as she reached for his. "Choose, human. Choose now." The man looked at her, frail, exhausted, yet full of love for children he had never seen. Then he looked at the hunters, cold, merciless, built only for destruction. The crystal pulsed harder in his hand, as though it too was waiting for his answer. One hunter raised its weapon, aiming at them. The hum of power built, red light swirling at the tip. The man shouted, his voice breaking the night. "No!" He lifted the crystal high. The light exploded outward, blinding white, washing over the clearing like a wave of fire and stars. The hunter staggered back, their scanners flickering, their armor glowing red-hot under the burst of energy. The woman gasped, covering her eyes. The man felt the power rushing through him, heat, sound, light, all at once. For a moment he thought it would burn him alive, but instead it wrapped around him, filling him with strength. The hunters roared in static fury, firing blindly into the light. Red blasts tore through trees, but the crystal's shield held strong. The man's feet sank into the earth as if the power was rooting him there. He shouted again, his voice shaking the forest. "This ends now." The crystal's glow surged and a shockwave burst from his hand. The ground split, trees snapped, and the hunters were thrown back like broken dolls. Their weapons flew from Mew, their hands sparking in the dirt. When the light faded, the clearing was silent again. Smoke rose from the ground. The hunters lay motionless, their armor cracked, their red beams extinguished. The man fell to his knees, the crystal dim in his palm, its energy fading. His body trembled, every muscle weak, but he was alive. The woman knelt beside him, her eyes wide with awe. You wielded it," she whispered. "It chose you." The man looked at the stone, now glowing faintly like a tired ember. He did not feel like a hero. He felt like a farmer who had lost everything, his barn, his land, his peace. And yet something inside him had changed. The woman touched his arm gently. "You had the chance to give it away. You did not. You chose to fight. That is what makes you different from them." He turned to her. "What now?" She lowered her head. "Now you must decide again. Keep it, and they will come back stronger. Or give it to me, and I will try to save my children, though I may never return." The man's chest ached. Two choices, neither easy. The night wind whispered through the trees. The world held its breath, waiting. He looked at the woman. He looked at the crystal, and though his lips did not speak the words, his heart already knew. He stood slowly, placing the crystal into her trembling hands, her eyes filled with tears glowing in the moonlight. "Thank you," she whispered, "for believing." The man turned away, staring into the forest where the hunters had fallen. He knew more would come. He knew this was not the end, but for now he had chosen. The woman clutched the crystal close, her voice soft and full of hope. "You have given my children a chance, and perhaps one day I will return to give your world the same." The man watched her vanish into the trees, the glow of the crystal fading with her. Alone in the clearing with smoke rising and silence all around, he whispered to himself, "This was only the beginning." The man pressed himself flat against the wall, praying they would leave. One hunter stopped, scanning the ground. The other turned back toward him, red beam sliding across his face. The man's heart stopped. It had seen him. The red beam cut across the man's face. He froze like a trapped animal, his breath caught in his chest. The hunter tilted its head, locking on him, its insect-like armor clicking as it shifted forward. The second hunter turned too, weapons humming with deadly light. The man's mind screamed at him to run, but his legs felt heavy as stone. The trapdoor below him creaked faintly, and he knew the alien woman was down there holding her breath, clutching that mysterious crystal. One hunter raised its weapon. Red sparks began to swirl at the tip, gathering into a burning charge. The barn walls glowed with the reflection, and the man knew he had only seconds. He forced his voice to come out loud but steady. "I told you, I am just a farmer." He pointed at the broken tools, the piles of hay. "There is nothing here for you." The hunters paused. Their mechanical language hissed between them, static and harsh. They were deciding whether to kill him or move on. Then, from under the floor, a faint hum rose again. The crystal. The hunters' helmets snapped toward the sound, their red lights stabbing across the floorboards. The man's stomach dropped. They had sensed it. He acted without thinking. Grabbing the rusty pitchfork from the wall, he swung it hard, smashing a lantern off its hook. The lantern hit the ground, spilling fire across the hay. Flames leapt up, filling the barn with smoke and heat. The hunters spun in alarm, their beams flickering wildly. The firelight mixed with their red glow, creating chaos. In that moment, the man yanked open the trapdoor. "Now!" he shouted. The woman scrambled out, clutching the glowing crystal close to her chest. For the first time, the man saw it clearly. It was no bigger than his fist, yet it pulsed with living light. Blue and white, swirling inside like a tiny storm. It hummed softly, not like a machine, but like a heartbeat. The sight of it sent chills down his spine. The woman's eyes met his. "This is what they want," she whispered. "This is what they will kill for." The hunters saw the glow immediately. Their voices screeched in static rage. Weapons lifted, energy burning hotter. The woman pressed the crystal against her chest. "I should never have brought it here," she said, her voice breaking. "But without it, my children will die." The man's mind reeled. A crystal that could save children, save entire worlds, and yet, in the wrong hands, it could destroy everything. The hunters stormed forward. The barn shook with their heavy steps. The woman's eyes filled with desperation. She turned to him, clutching his arm. "Listen to me. This crystal was made by my people long ago. It can heal. It can feed. It can give life to a dying world, but it can also destroy. The hunters wanted to burn cities, to take planets. If they win, Earth will be next." The fire spread quickly, smoke thickening, flames licking up the wooden beams. The hunters ignored the fire. Their focus was only on the crystal. The man coughed, his eyes stinging. "Then why give it to me?" he asked, voice rough. "Because you still have hope," she whispered. "I saw it in you. You care for the earth. You protect life. You are human, and humans fight for what they love. That is why I came to your garden." The man's chest tightened. He wanted to believe her, but the weight of the choice was crushing. Hold the crystal and he became part of her war. Refuse it, and her children would starve. And Earth might still fall. The hunters roared in static fury, raising their weapons. The woman shoved the crystal into his hands. Its light burned hot against his skin, filling him with a strange energy. He gasped, feeling its heartbeat pulse inside him, as though it had chosen him too. The hunters fired. Red blasts ripped through the barn, tearing apart walls, smashing wood and hay. The man and the woman dove to the ground, shielding the crystal. The fire roared higher, sparks raining down like stars. The hunters advanced, unstoppable. The woman turned to him, her face pale but fierce. "You must protect it," she said. "Even if I do not survive, promise me." The man clenched the crystal tighter. Its light wrapped around his fingers, seeping into his skin, as though binding itself to him. "I promise," he whispered. The hunters stomped closer, their weapons glowing brighter, their shadows stretching long against the burning walls. The woman's eyes glistened with tears. She touched his arm. "Then you are part of this now." The barn shuddered as one hunter smashed its weapon into the ground. The earth shook. Boards cracked. Flames roared higher. The man's chest pounded. He had the crystal now. The hunters knew it. There was no going back. And as the barn burned around them, he realized the truth. His quiet life was over. He was no longer just a farmer. He was holding the future of two worlds in his hands. The woman met his eyes, her voice breaking through the roar of fire and static. "Run! Now!" The hunters stepped forward, their red beams locking on the crystal. The man took a deep breath, the glowing stone hot in his palm. He had promised he could not turn back, and with the flames closing in, he knew the war had only just begun. The barn was burning. Flames roared across the wooden beams, smoke rising thick into the night sky. The hunters did not care about the fire. They only cared about the crystal, the small glowing stone now clutched tight in the man's hand. The woman grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the back wall. "We cannot stay. They will not stop until they have it." The man's lungs burned with smoke. He coughed, blinking through the red haze. The hunters' weapons hummed, their beams cutting through the smoke as they advanced. One fired. A blast of red energy smashed into the floorboards, sending splinters flying. The man stumbled, almost dropping the crystal, but the woman steadied him. "Hold it tight," she shouted. They ran toward the back door. The woman pressed her hand against the wood, and for a brief second, the crystal's light spread through her skin. The door burst open as though pushed by invisible force. Cool night air rushed in. The man gasped for breath, pulling her through the opening. They sprinted into the fields, the burning barn behind them lighting the sky like a torch. The hunters stormed out seconds later. Their tall, armored figures glowed in the firelight, their red beams sweeping across the open ground. The woman stumbled, weak from exhaustion. The man pulled her along, his boots pounding the dirt. His farm, his home, everything he had built was now just smoke and fire behind him. The hunters raised their weapons again. Another blast scorched the ground only feet from where they ran. Dirt and grass exploded, showering them with burning soil. The man's heart hammered. "We can't outrun them," he gasped. The woman clutched the crystal, her voice sharp. "The forest. It will hide us." They veered toward the dark line of trees at the edge of the farm. The man's legs ached, his lungs screamed, but fear pushed him forward. The hunters followed, their heavy steps shaking the ground. Their voices crackled in their strange tongue, sharp and cold. They moved fast, too fast. The man felt the crystal's heat in his hand. It pulsed like a heartbeat, steady and strong. Energy hummed through his veins, giving him strength he did not understand. His feet struck the earth harder, faster, as though the crystal itself was lending him speed. They reached the trees. The forest swallowed them in darkness, branches scratching, roots twisting underfoot. The hunters' red lights flickered behind, glowing like angry eyes as they entered the woods. The woman pressed close to him, her breathing ragged. "They will not stop," she whispered. "Once they smell the crystal, they follow forever." The man's stomach sank. "Then how do we escape?" She looked at him, her face pale, her eyes fierce. "We don't escape. We fight." The words chilled. He was no soldier. He was a farmer with calloused hands and simple tools, and yet here he was, running through a dark forest with an alien woman at his side and the fate of worlds in his palm. Behind them, the hunters blasted through the trees, their weapons ripping apart trunks, setting branches on fire. The man pulled her down into a ditch, pressing low against the earth. The hunters passed close, their red beams sweeping just above their heads. The smell of smoke and burning wood filled the air. The woman touched his shoulder. "The crystal can help us, but it will cost me my strength. I can shield us once more, but only for a short time. After that, I do not know." He stared at her, sweat dripping down his face. "Then use it. Do whatever you can, just keep us alive." She nodded, her hands trembling as she pressed the crystal to her chest. The glow spread across her skin, then stretched outward, wrapping them both in a faint shimmering light. The hunters stopped suddenly. Their scanners flickered, confused. Their red beams slid past the ditch without noticing them. The man held his breath, not daring to move. The hunters stomped deeper into the forest, their heavy steps fading. When the glow disappeared, the woman collapsed against him, her body weak. Her lips trembled as she spoke. I cannot do that again. The man steadied, her gripping the crystal tightly. He could feel it pulsing as though alive, as though it knew the choice had passed to him now. He looked into the darkness of the forest, his jaw tight. He had never wanted this. He had only wanted peace, his garden, his quiet life. But the hunters would not stop. Not now. Not ever. He stood, pulling her up with him. Then we keep moving. If they want this, they'll have to tear it from my hands.